Today's IT environment is cloud native, focusing on containerized applications in Kubernetes clusters, running at the core, in the cloud, and at the edge. Ensuring business continuity and ensuring governance and compliance in this application-centric world requires new approaches to managing and protecting data. In this audio webcast, you'll hear from IDC what it means to have a modern data management strategy fit for cloud-native environments. And then you'll learn how SUSE, Trilio, and Amazon Web Services have come together to empower organizations with the tools and capabilities they need to successfully deploy, manage, and protect their cloud-native applications. Hello, and welcome to this webcast titled Workload Resiliency in a Cloud-Native World with AWS, SUSE, Trilio, and IDC. Brought to you by AWS, SUSE, Trilio, IDC, and IDG. My name's Tom Schmidt, Digital Content Director at IDG Strategic Marketing Services, and I'll be the host of this webcast. Joining me is Archana Venkatraman, Associate Research Director for Cloud Data Management at IDC Europe. In this role, Archana covers multiple topics, including data protection, edge-to-cloud data trends, application and data availability, and compliance, among others. Hello, Archana.
Hi, Tom. Many thanks for having me here. It's a great pleasure.
Excellent. And please welcome Kevin Ayers, Public Cloud Solution Architect at SUSE. Kevin brings more than 20 years of enterprise and open source architecture experience to his role at SUSE. Hello, Kevin.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for introducing me, and welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here today.
Also joining us is David Rocha, Senior Partner Solutions Architect at Amazon Web Services. David has been working with customers migrating to cloud providers for more than 12 years. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Tom, and hope everyone enjoys the content we create.
And finally, please welcome Stefan Kroll, Alliance's Solution Architect at Trilio, where he helps channel and alliance partners build Kubernetes solution practices that deliver business outcomes. Hello, Stefan.
Thanks, Tom, for a lovely introduction, and thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
We've got a great session lined up today, so let's dive right in. Archana, we're going to be discussing why traditional solutions aren't up to the task of protecting and managing cloud-native applications. Can you kick things off by sharing with us what IDC means by a modern data management strategy?
Sure, Tom. That is a great question. And to understand the importance of modern data management strategy, it's important to appreciate and understand the seismic shift that enterprise IT is going through and the digital business outcomes that they're trying to meet. And for the next 20 minutes, that's what I'm going to be talking about, sharing the lay of the land, how digital enterprises are behaving, what their needs are, and how it's intensely becoming cloud and cloud native, and you need a modern data management strategy to support that. We are very much in a digital-first world. We have crossed that digital Rubicon, if you will. There's just no looking back. Majority of the GDP itself is going to be digitized by the end of this year. And we are seeing a lot more organizations taking this digital-first approach to be relevant and thrive in this digital world as an intelligent digital enterprise. In the next 3 to 4 years, we will see how a lot of enterprises that successfully generate digital innovation, those are the ones that will derive more than 25% of their revenue from digitization, digital products and services. So there is a monetary value associated with digital now. So digital transformation really is beginning to deliver value. And to do this, a lot of organizations are accelerating their investments in direct digital transformation related activities. So that could be a front-end experience, it could be cloud and cloud native world. And all this is growing at a much faster growth rate compared to the overall ICT investment growth rate. If you look at it, the overall ICT is expected to grow at 5% CAGR between now and 2024. And if you look at the digital transformation related technologies, those are growing at 16.5% CAGR in the same time. So there's huge amount of directed investment into these activities. And organizations are making targeted efforts towards these kind of digital transformation investments. So they are trying to deliver value through their investments. So a lot of that is going to develop production-grade cloud-native applications, modern net new applications. And we are seeing how there's going to be a huge amount of explosion of these kind of apps. So it's going to increase to 70% in the next 2 years from just 10% of all applications in 2020. And companies are leveraging newer processes and technologies like microservices and containers and their DevOps strategies to develop these kind of modern cloud-native applications. We saw how digital enablers are outpacing the overall ICT spend, but if you hone into which are those digital enablers, cloud stands out very tall. So we're beginning to see how cloud is really the digital building block for a lot of enterprises, and it's going to grow at an accelerated rate of 22%. Security, or next generation security, and the wraparound data protection is equally important, and that's growing at an accelerated rate as well, as is organizations' efforts towards embracing hybrid work and future of work. So that's growing at an accelerated rate as well, and that's been particularly pushed as a result of the pandemic, where businesses were caught off guard because they weren't ready. So that's a huge amount of investment area. So IDC predicts that by 2026, more than half of CIOs will drive business transformation via strategic technology roadmaps and replatforming their entire IT architecture to enable an agile, data-driven, collaborative workforce and enable faster and agile innovation. Companies are essentially going through this technology-led reimagination of their business. They're understanding the value of technology to meet their digital business outcomes. So when we look at forward-thinking organizations, what are these leading organizations doing? So the most cloud-savvy organizations are focusing on 5 key priorities as part of their modern cloud and cloud-native strategy. And the top one is around building digital trust and security and enabling intelligent security operations. So for 47% of organizations, building that digital trust and intelligent next-gen security capabilities is front and center. The next important thing for them is to have access to real-time integrated data. So for a lot of organizations, they were doing a lot of analytics activities, but they weren't really into real-time data access. So now that's an important aspect as well. And cloud strategies are shifting as well. We're beginning to see how companies are taking a right cloud for a right workload strategy. They're not adopting a single cloud as a blanket strategy. They're taking a best-in-class approach for their workloads. So companies are moving even from cloud first to an application first strategy when it comes to using cloud. So cloud is very much the de facto building block for their innovation. And once they start moving to these cloud platforms, they begin to realize how much leverage they're getting through newer capabilities like automation and orchestration and next-gen security. So they're leveraging all those additional capabilities at scale that's available to them on public clouds. And then they're also modernizing their enterprise infrastructure, because not all applications lend themselves to a single cloud. So they are looking at programmable infrastructure like software-defined storage, networking, containers, Kubernetes, and serverless architectures as well. So there's a huge amount of technology-led reimagination of business. Together, investing into all these, companies are really trying to build this modern digital infrastructure architecture. And this is a conceptual representation of how a digital infrastructure looks like. It is extremely resilient, it's extremely intelligent and automated. And at the heart of it, it's built on cloud-native principles. It's agile, it's innovative, and it leverages modern capabilities like Kubernetes and containers to develop those new applications at speed and scale. And we at IDC predict a wholesale shift to containers and Kubernetes environment in the next 2 to 3 years. And we see that containers are really appealing to a lot of organizations beyond even the native Kubernetes developers. It's trickling down to your core IT operations team as well, because people are beginning to see the value of containers and what it can bring for their digital innovation strategies, because companies are looking to become software producers or digital factories where they want to meet the Netflixes of the world in terms of innovation. So they want that kind of speed and agility. That's why they're looking at Kubernetes as a way and means to achieve that. It's helping them modernize their application design because now they're able to deconstruct their legacy applications and bring in microservices and modernize them and make them cloud ready. And a lot of applications are also that are built in the cloud, and they just want to make their applications a lot more portable. So when they bring in these cloud native capabilities into those applications, they can then take those to the cloud of their choice. So we spoke about how containers are now beginning to enter mainstream. So we asked organizations, what's your container adoption looking like? We conducted this survey in Europe. So we asked organizations, and 7 in 10 European organizations are already running more than 10% of their applications on containers. When we abstract this to a global level, the number is much, much higher. And a large percentage of organizations, like nearly 28% of organizations, are running up to 50% of their applications on containers. We think that by the end of this year, 2/3 of mid-sized and large organizations will have embedded their cloud-native initiatives across different parts of their business. So they are thinking in agile ways. They are putting product engineering teams to make sure that they can accelerate their innovation. Now, what stands out to me the most in this bar chart is the third graphic, which talks about 11.68. That's 12% of organizations are kind of clueless about the number of applications that's running in containers. And that's kind of a risky strategy because once they look under the hood, they realize that a lot of important business critical data and a lot of important business critical applications are now beginning to be associated with these container environments. And when that happens, they need to think about enterprise grade wraparound capabilities around those environments to make sure they are resilient and they're not compromising on their business continuity or disaster recovery capabilities. So it's very important to get a grip on your container environment, to get that visibility, and that will help you guide your data management strategy, which is absolutely crucial for that resilience factor. Because containers lend themselves not just to modern applications, but also for modernizing mainstream applications, it really is revolutionizing the world of data management. We asked organizations, what are your top challenges when you're deploying containers? And security and data management stood out strongly for us when we asked this. So companies are really challenged because it's a completely new world. They're developing those skills, but at the same time, they're really also not entirely sure how they can create those data management capabilities. The other factors that stood out for us was also data integrity and reliability in that world, having that integration across multiple clouds, compatibility with the existing IT environments, disaster recovery, as well as compliance and regulation. So all these challenges, if you look at them, they can be categorized as end-to-end data management strategies in that container world. When we looked specifically at data management challenges in this platform, container platform environment for developing new applications, there were skills and past data protection stood out strongly for us because we've done data protection and data management challenges surveys in the past as well, but it's only in the last 12 to 18 months that we're beginning to see these modern environments like PaaS becoming a serious consideration for data protection. And companies are looking to protect their templates, the logs, the data lakes, and their Kubernetes configuration. So those are the things that they're trying to protect so that they can stand up a new environment quickly. There's also this fear about misconfiguration. And then ransomware is becoming a huge issue for organizations. The volume of ransomware attacks is increasing, and we're beginning to hear how no environment is actually safe, right? We would think that containers are an emerging environment and you won't have bad actors looking at that environment at all, but that's not true. We're beginning to see how containers and edge environments and endpoints, they're all susceptible to ransomware attacks. So building resilience around ransomware is an extremely important strategy to make sure you can take containers at scale. So that's something organizations are looking at as well as part of their entire data management strategy. then the ones that are investing in data management are also beginning to realize that it reduces their errors. It makes it a lot more smoother in terms of operations because they have a lot of things in place. And then it helps them in making those upgrades a lot easier and a lot more confidently, because you want to be using the latest and the greatest in that container world. But if you don't have all the data management features and capabilities and backup, it's very difficult for you to move to the next level without having business disruption. And there are also fears around accidental deletion and the inability of existing data protection environments or legacy data protection environments to protect those container environments. And we asked organizations, where are you most scared about data loss? And ransomware stood out first, but there was also accidental deletion and cloud platform outages and reliance on default retention. So companies are beginning to realize that whatever applications they use, whether it's PaaS or SaaS, if they go with the default retention, it just doesn't give them the capabilities and flexibility for long-term retention. So they're trying to see how they can use these modern environments without compromising on any of their retention requirements and compliance requirements. Data corruption was quite an interesting one, which was associated with these modern environments, because you have a lot of developers and you have even citizen developers working with these environments. So it's very easy to introduce bugs and new codes that's not required into these environments. So data corruption is a key reason for data loss that they cited as well. And also having no access to historic data, because these environments move really fast. So when they get the data back, it's not in the format that they want. That's another reason of data loss, which is why when you have a data protection or backup environment, it gives you resilience from all these data loss scenarios. And these data loss scenarios and data protection is very well connected to the security strategies that companies are trying to implement. So we asked organizations, what are your top security priorities? And data loss and leakage prevention and cloud security stood out at the top. When companies are failing in their cloud strategies, when we delve deeper into it, we realize that most of the time it is some kind of issues with regards to their security configuration or network configuration. So it's usually the lack of skills and security and network configuration that results in failures around cloud security, because inherently, if you look at the technology platform itself, it's very safe because it has all these next generation security capabilities in the platform. So it's how you configure your applications, how you configure and your network and security operation centers. Those are the things that matter the most in making sure that your cloud and cloud native environment is secure and robust. So companies are very much investing in modernizing their data management. I was just looking at an IDC stat earlier today that showed only 10% of organizations were investing around 20% of their IT budgets into data protection. But today, 65% of organizations are spending more than 10% of their IT budgets on data protection. So it's very much a boardroom issue, because they realize the value of overall data management to make sure that they can protect and keep these environments resilient. So when they are modernizing their data management, we asked organizations, what's in your wish list? What is it that you want? So security capabilities like encryption is very important for them. But cloud native protection and having that simplicity and API-driven capabilities is very much at the top as well, which was nowhere in the radar 12 months ago in our previous research. That goes to show how companies are really taking these modern paradigms very seriously, and they're investing to make those quite robust as well. And it's interesting how they are giving as much importance to simplicity and that API strategy and even consumption model, which I have highlighted here, to show that it's the cloud experience, cloud-like experience, that's very important for them. So there's this belief that legacy data protection technologies or data management technologies don't give that cloud-like experience, which is very important for newer personas like developers who want to take charge of adding data management and take charge of operations as well. So these capabilities are very important for newer personas. And that's why when companies are modernizing their data management, they're looking at all these newer capabilities. All that boils down to building and boosting an organization's data resilience, because digital resilience is extremely important. That's what companies learned in after the 2020 crisis. You have all these digital dream teams and task forces coming together to build that digital resilience, and data resilience is a key component of that. In the next 3 to 4 years, we will see more than half of organizations will have migrated their data protection systems to a cloud-centric model so that they can centrally manage their core, edge, cloud, and cloud-native data protection from a unified platform. That they're taking a platform approach rather than having siloed backup tools for their legacy environment and something for cloud-native and something for the cloud. They're just taking a unified approach so that they can have automated policies and extend it from core to edge to the cloud. So they're taking a modern platform approach. And we asked organizations what other technology capabilities you need. So data protection as a service, which is that cloud experience, was very important for them. So in this chart, I've highlighted green bars and blue bars. The blue bars are the ones that the business users want to invest in, and the green bars are the ones that IT leaders want to invest in. And if you can see, everyone's taking responsibility to develop that data resilience. It's very much a team sport, but it's great to see how IT is not left behind. It's very much working together with the business teams and the newer personas like DevOps teams and the SREs to develop a holistic data resilience strategy. So they are the ones who are investing in a platform like container platform data protection, automated data services, unified data protection. They're just trying to see how they can make their lives easier so they can focus on a lot more strategic tasks, such as developing those governance, additional governance applications on top that's required, that's unique for their own organization. So they want to leverage as many modern capabilities at the platform level and use automation in terms of data management so that they can focus on much more strategic tasks. So I think it really is time for a lot of organizations to understand that cloud and cloud native world is very much here, and forward-thinking organizations have taken a lot of action. They have hardened their environments. They have thought about day 2 and beyond, because it's not just adopting cloud native and cloud technologies. It's about running them successfully, governing them successfully, managing them successfully. And that requires you to think about data protection, because today, cloud native world might be only for stateless applications for some organizations, but over time, when legacy applications get modernized with cloud native capabilities, we'll see the lines between stateless and stateful environment blur. And all applications, regardless of where they are and what environment they are in, they would need robust data protection and data management. And that's what they need to consider seriously to make sure they develop a resilient cloud and cloud native environment. And in the next 1 year, most C-suite leaders will implement KPIs tied to this kind of data availability, recovery, and stewardship to protect themselves from cyber attacks. So it's time to take action. That's what you got from me, Tom.
Thank you, Archana. Lots of important information there. Now we're going to hear from the members of our roundtable. Let's begin with Kevin Ayers of SUSE, who'll talk to us about the key pillars of a successful Kubernetes strategy. Kevin?
Thank you, Tom. SUSE really sees 2 key pillars in a successful strategy. The first pillar, of course, is underlying physical or virtual infrastructure, with the overlay of a certified Kubernetes distribution on top of that. And in the case of AWS, we're actually consuming Kubernetes as a service. So the underlying infrastructure is transparent. And a lot of people increasingly are going that direction. The second pillar is a centralized management plane. And, there are a couple of key tenets under this pillar that are important for managing Kubernetes at scale. Consistent cluster operations, enabling IT ops teams to manage all of their distributions with a consistent interface, regardless of where they run. Ease of application deployment and redeployment via a marketplace with predefined or custom charts, and the ability to upgrade and redeploy applications using this simplified workflow. Security, policy, and user management, enabling IT ops teams to automate processes, and apply a consistent set of user access and security policies for all of the clusters, no matter where they're running. And then certainly shared tools and services. Any management platform needs to provide seamless access to DevOps tools and services, including application packaging, CI/CD operations, logging, monitoring, storage and networking, service mesh, etc. And everything must come together under a very robust single pane of glass and provide visibility into all the clusters, storage, and other resources, regardless of what distribution, technology, or location. Visibility for data mobility across core, cloud, and edge, and this is really key to disaster recovery and business continuity during testing, during actual outages and recovery, data mobility operations, migrations, just as an exercise, or any other unplanned stress events. And this applies to both stateful and stateless applications. Now, Rancher Server can be deployed to our physical server OS, virtual machine, Docker runtime, or into any CNCF certified Kubernetes distribution, such as EKS, via Helm chart, and even directly from the AWS Container Marketplace in just a few minutes. As we talk about full lifecycle management of cloud-hosted Kubernetes clusters, there are a few key tenets here that are worth mentioning. The ability to configure and provision, easily implement service mesh, storage, and other services. SUSE Rancher and Fleet projects combined to enable deployment configuration management via GitOps to 1 million clusters. The ability to manage. SUSE Rancher with Harvester provides a complete hyper-converged infrastructure solution for hosts, VM instances, clusters, pods, networking, and storage. Security, enabling role-based access control, integration to all major authentication mechanisms, security policies, etc. And now with NeoVector, the ability to mitigate compliance concerns and security vulnerabilities throughout the entire development and production pipeline. The ability to perform upgrades on the fly. SUSE Rancher delivers push-button simplicity for upgrades. So it is really a tool that anyone can use to upgrade their application, redeploy their application, etc. And then an application marketplace. You can access hundreds of certified apps directly from the SUSE Rancher catalog in the UI. Anything with a Helm chart or a Git repo, and you can certainly still deploy clusters and applications via CLI and have Rancher simply pick those up via an import process. So let me go ahead and hand this off to David Rocha, who can speak to the native AWS services that are a key part of this combined solution. David?
Thank you, Kevin. So Amazon S3 Glacier Vault helps you and solutions like Trilio Vault capture a copy of your data, or in this use case, a container archive in a worm storage configuration using S3. Now, worm refers to the ability to write to storage one time and read multiple times without the ability to edit the original write. And at a high level, Glacier Vault is an AWS S3 object that you create to store your S3 Glacier archives. And you can create an unlimited number of Glacier Vaults so that you can organize your archives accordingly. Now, by using Amazon S3 Glacier Vault Lock, Trilio Vault is able to deploy and enforce compliance controls for your S3 Glacier Vaults with a Vault Lock policy. Now, the Vault Lock policy provides Trilio Vault a way to create immutable archives to ensure that no entity, both internal or external, can modify or delete an archive. Additionally, Amazon S3 Glacier Vault allows you as a company to maintain audit and compliance capabilities over the archives. I also want to emphasize that Amazon S3 Glacier Vault Lock meets worm storage requirements that are outlined in SEC Rule 17A-4F. Now, that SEC rule is a requirement that customers constantly reference when asking for immutable storage. And this is because the SEC requires brokers, and other regulated companies to retain electronic communications to the business for up to 6 years. Now, the next two slides, we'll take a look at what is an IAM user and bucket policy. First off, Amazon S3 is secure by default. If customers use the default configuration, their bucket locks down access to just the account owner and root administrator. IAM is a service that is used to provide fine-grained access controls across all of AWS. And there are two components in IAM that I'm going to cover. The first one being an IAM policy. An IAM policy specifies what actions are allowed or denied and with what AWS resources. You can attach IAM policies to users, groups, or roles, which are then subject to the permissions you've defined. In other words, IAM policies define what a principal can do in your AWS environment. And based on the example on the slide, the principal is a user. The S3 bucket policies, on the other hand, are attached only to S3 buckets. S3 bucket policy specifies what actions are allowed or denied and by what principal. And in this S3 bucket policy, we're also going to use a user as the principal. And to continue with the example, here's a sample IAM user policy. The policy allows put and get actions into an S3 bucket called my bucket. So if a principal has this policy assigned, that principal is able to run put and get commands against the bucket. And if we look at the next policy, the bucket policy allows a user from a specific AWS account to read objects from an S3 bucket called my bucket. Additionally, the objects must have a specific tag value of project X. And I do want to point out that all tags are key value pairs. The key takeaway is that you want to implement the principle of least privilege. And IAM and S3 provide you that capability as well as the immutability for your data archives. With that, I'll turn it over to Stefan.
Thanks, David, for the brilliant introduction into the world of AWS S3 Vault and all of its features. That's very helpful. Thank you very much. Now let's talk about Trilio. Trilio Vault for Kubernetes. So basically, what is Trilio Vault for Kubernetes? It is a enterprise-grade data protection platform, and we are 100% application-centric. What does that mean? We focus on your application, your workload, and whatever is related to this, we will back this up for you to make you feel good in terms of backup and recovery of your data, of your workloads, etc. What is the platform compatibility about? So basically, we have certifications with many providers, many distributions, like, for example, Rancher. We are fully integrated into it, and we basically leverage the existing services of Rancher to make Trilio even more useful and beneficial for your customers. We, as well as Rancher, we offer a lot of services, and we as Trilio, we embed ourselves into the existing ecosystem of your toolsets. For example, Rancher offers the Prometheus and Grafana. Trilio is able to be compatible with that one. We offer templates and scripts to be kickstart in that area to have a less effort for your customers. In terms of ransomware protection, we talked about this earlier. This is a hot topic out there, and you have to do something about it. So basically what we do is, and that's why it's brilliant to have David on the call explaining the AWS S3 functionalities, we have a solution against ransomware. So we leverage the AWS S3 bucket object locking functionality to make sure nobody can encrypt, transform, manipulate, or even delete your data, potentially your customers' personal data on your AWS S3 target. As well as Trilio offers a lot of functionalities in terms of security and compliance, following certain industry standards. Why did I say that Trilio Vault for Kubernetes is an enterprise-grade product? Because we offer enterprise-grade functionalities. For example, if you have certain complex workloads running on your platform, you can do certain actions, we call it hooks, to your applications before and after they get backed up and restored. We are also very, very focusing on a cloud agnostic solution. So that's why we are compatible to most of the CNCF certified distributions out there, and you are able to migrate your data from one distribution to another distribution with basically no effort. We give you all the tools you need, all the functionalities you need to do this in a very easy and effortless manner. What we also can do is, because we support multiple distributions, you can manage and administrate all these Trilio Vault installations with one UI. We call it multi-cluster management UI. So less effort on this side as well to be able to have a large-scale environment running and administrate that from a backup and recovery perspective with Trilio with no effort. We also offer a freemium kind of model. So if you're interested in Trilio for Kubernetes, go to our website and just register yourself and download the free trial license if you want to have a go. Now let's have a look on the high-level architecture. Considering we have the SUSE Rancher installation up and running, we have Trilio installed on that SUSE Rancher via the marketplace, which is basically a one-click install application. You basically click on that, and our Trilio for Kubernetes will, in minutes, being installed on that platform. And Trilio itself is leveraging the AWS S3 bucket on the right-hand side, with its object logging functionality to store the data on that target. What you can do is, we consider on the left-hand side, we have a cluster 1 and at the top, and we back up something on the AWS S3 target in the same manner using the immutable backup functionality. You are able to restore these kind of workloads on the same cluster, maybe in the same namespace or in the same on the same cluster in a different namespace, but also you can restore the same workload to another cluster, to a different cluster, maybe in a different location for a BCM scenario, for example. And this is possible without having any information on the existing cluster, which means the Trilio Vault for Kubernetes installation itself is stateless. Everything you need to recover your workload is stored safely on that AWS S3 bucket. So all you need is the target information, so basically the credentials to access the AWS S3 bucket on the new cluster, and you're good to go to restore your applications for a BCM scenario, for example. And this is a very, I would call it, rock-solid solution. It is proven, and this is very important for customers because they want to have a trusted, proven, tested solution to put potentially customer data, maybe financial data on it. That's what customers are looking for a tested and a solid solution stack these days. Let's talk about some security best practice. We talked about a lot of security and compliance topics these days, and it's very important to understand what is security. So security is a process. It's not a single product. It is not a status. It is something you have to develop, and you have to develop each day. And you have to question yourself, is the stuff I do today appropriate, or do I have to do more because there are more threats out there? So security is always a shared responsibility. As we have seen before, we have multiple players in that game. So we have the Rancher, we have AWS, we have Trilio in the middle, and maybe certain other functionalities. So everybody in this solution stack has to keep its responsibility area, safe, secure, and compliant as best as possible. So, and all this should fit together, and as well, communication between these solutions has to be, secure. That's why we have these collaboration and partnerships to talk about how we can do this in the best possible manner to offer the best possible service to customers. This has to be implemented from the ground up, so from the infrastructure level to the platform level to the target level, and also to the tool and solution kind of level upwards, as well as to the workload and application level. So this is what I mean with a kind of a onion-shaped layer of security. So everybody should take his responsibility in terms of security going from the bottom to the top. As well as sometimes it's down to the very simple ways of doing security. So simple ways, I mean, you reduce complexity where possible, because sometimes the simple way is the most safe way, because complexity means also a high potential, a high risk of making mistakes in configurations, for example. What is Trilio doing? Trilio is leveraging common industry standards like NIST or the NCCOE framework to design Trilio Vault for Kubernetes in the safest and in the best manner possible, following architectures like zero trust architectures, which is the common standard out there. And that's how Trilio Vault for Kubernetes is designed from the ground up as a cloud-native application. Also, security is always end-to-end. I mentioned it before, from the infrastructure level to the application level, and from applications to maybe other applications. This is very important to understand. So it's always an end-to-end piece. And what's also possible and very important is that you do not have to harden everything, and you also have to observe everything. So observability of your service, of your applications is also impossible, just to make sure everything is running the way you want it to. Come to the last point, which is important. If you have a so-called AAA, so authentication, authorization, and auditing in place, that's a must these days. So you have to control that somebody has the right access, that you identify this person properly, and that you actually log what this person is doing on that platform, on that application. On every layer, you would like to have these insights. And also, access and identity management is very important, that you track certain activities and also define, for example, things like, okay, this is a person and we have to change the password. This person has left the company, for example, so we have to delete this account just to make sure this account cannot be reused. As I mentioned, sometimes it's down to simplicity, but all these kind of things are very, very important in terms of security best practices these days. And this is something we, as Rancher, as Trilio, and as AWS, which we are focusing on to make the best possible service. And with that, I would pass it back on to Tom.
Thank you, Stefan. Well, that's about all the time we have for today's webcast. I want to give a big thanks to our speakers, Archana Venkatraman of IDC, Stefan Kroll of Trilio, Kevin Ayers of SUSE, and David Rocha of AWS for sharing their expertise and insights with us. Thanks especially to you, our viewers, for tuning in. Please be sure to check out the resources section on your console for links to some valuable Trilio and SUSE resources. For AWS, SUSE, Trilio, IDC, and IDG, I'm Tom Schmidt.